Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is the masterclass for the authors of Getting Unhacked. So we're here live today, and we'll be recording this for people that can't attend on today's session, just so that we can talk about our chapters in the book. You can get to know us, and if you want to have a conversation with us, we have a Facebook group, Getting Unhacked Conversations with the Authors. At the end of the presentation, we will make available our template format that's on the Google Drive, and Brother Ahmed will make it available so that everybody can capture that and collect our social media contacts. Today's agenda is pretty simple. There are 4 authors speaking today, and we'll each spend about 20 minutes to talk about our chapters and things that we want to talk about. Without further ado, we're going to go in the order of our listing in the book itself. I'm first up in the book. My name is Albert Whale. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an international speaker, award-winning and international best-selling author, and a global security professional. Today, I'm here to talk about getting unhacked, making your quantum shift. So in the book, I talk all about process and mindset. And what I want to do is explain exactly what's going on here so that everybody is familiar with what's happening. How are we getting unhacked? How do we make a quantum shift? Because it's all really about your mindset. If one of the authors has a different opinion and they want to speak up while I'm talking, that's clearly fine with me. So back in the 30s, Dr. Thurwood Fleet came up with a picture of the mind and the body, because up to that point in time, we really didn't understand the brain and how it worked. And we couldn't talk about it with a picture until this stick man model, we're calling it the stick figure now, came about, which talked about the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the body itself. So the conscious mind is all about what are we thinking, and it's more about the intellectual mind. It's the mind where we get to make choices and respect what we want to do with those choices in our daily events. The subconscious mind is already pre-programmed for us, and I'll go through how that gets done. And it controls our daily activities. Normally, you find yourself driving in your car, and before you know it, you're at your destination, whether it's your mother's house, your grocery store, the post office, or the bank, and you didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to what steps it took to get there. It's all done subconsciously. So that's a practice that takes some time. Do you remember getting your first license? You didn't go out there, turn on the key, and then you were already driving. You had to learn how to drive. You had to learn the rules of the road. But as that methodology was put into your mind, it was all programmed into your subconscious, and your subconscious takes care of that for you without you having to think about it. And that's where you get to use your conscious mind to choose about things, read books, and understand intellectually about things. But the subconscious mind is what drives the body, sends vibrations to us to move us forward faster so that we can do things. Everything that we've learned and we've absorbed as we were kids. Up until the age of about 7 years old, the mind of a child is more like a sponge. Anybody here have small kids or grandkids or anything like that, and you can see the kids around you? Yes? Every once in a while, one of them will mimic what you're doing, won't they? Because they're learning to do things. At this stage, before they're 7 or 8 years old, they don't have an intellectual mind yet. They're running with the subconscious mind, still learning the day-to-day language of their environment, how things work in their environment, what you expect them to do to get dressed in the morning, or how do they eat their food. All of that is programming that we're giving our kids, our grandkids, and the young toddlers that we're responsible for on how to operate in the daily world. This is the unconscious mind. You see here the bubbles for the news, the TV, family, friends, school, and the internet. All of these things contribute to the subconscious mind programming. And that is how most people live their lives, with this subconscious programming built in from their friends and family and teachers. If we allow that to continue, then whatever they've done in the past is going to be the continuation of how they exist in the future. All right. Changing that environment and changing the programming is how we grow and we perform new duties, or we excel at what we're doing. Now, the adult mind is still affected with the different environment around us. We have the news, the TV, the family, friends, and everything, but we have an intellectual mind, so we get to choose. By choosing, we can accept or reject ideas that we want to place into our mind. That's pretty easily understood, right? When we get to accept something, we can add it to our subconscious programming and or replace what's there with a new thought, a new idea, or a new process that we want to learn about in our subconscious mind so that we can move forward. The conscious mind can accept and reject. The unconscious mind must accept everything that's presented to it. When a hypnotist is on stage and he's getting somebody hypnotized, he's connecting with the subconscious mind. And that connection there allows him to program a behavior he wants you to do. Walk like a duck when I say duck, something of that ilk. The subconscious mind can't reject it, but consciously we can accept information from our environment and either accept or reject it, like the news. I don't think I've watched the news in the past 10 years. I don't accept what they're giving me as news because I don't feel like it's newsworthy. Things that affect me are newsworthy. Things that are affecting the rest of the world, I don't have control over, nor do I understand how I can change the rest of the world without changing myself first. Okay. And that's what the adult mind has that's different than the young, youthful mind. So we can decide to reject all information coming from the news media. That takes away that level of programming. Now we aren't influenced by what we see on the news media, which today it's more like propaganda than anything, right? And using that subconsciously controls the people that are here in our environment to behave in a particular way. So by choosing what ideas you can put in your mind, you are selectively replacing what's there in the environment. It's easier to replace with a new idea than it is to try to remove, because as new ideas come in, the older ones that are no longer used and accepted will dissipate. It's that synaptic process in the brain where we're rewiring our brain, as Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, and Dr. Joe Vitale, now the president of Napoleon Hill Institute. These are all techniques that are used for helping us achieve better goals, better values, and moving us forward. We're coming up with a subject that was near and dear to me, and that's the terror barrier. Changing the way you behave is one thing. But when you get to the point where you're going to change everything that you do, you reach something called the terror barrier. That's where fear comes in. By accepting everything as the way it was before, you bounce off the fear barrier and go back to comfort. Making change is never easy or comfortable, but if you break through it, you'll be able to press through and reach your goal and receive the benefit of being that goal, of change, finding the thing it is that you wanted to do. It might not be comfortable at first, but as you move through this and break through the terror barrier, you find that you've reached your goal. One of the things that we do at Napoleon Hill Institute is utilize the self-discipline camp, which nobody else provides right now as far as training is concerned, as a disruptor. We're changing people's lives, and they usually see a change in their attitude within 3 to 5 days. And after 5 days, the new programming seems to take effect for most people. Sometimes it takes up to 30 or 60 days, but the conditioning to get up in the morning and go to a 5:30 class, that's done, generally speaking, in 5 days. And right now, we're in a break period between the self-discipline camp that just ended on May 6th. And I'm anxiously waiting, not anxiously, I desire that repetition of getting up at 5:30 to meet with my fellow coaches and members of Napoleon Hill Institute and continue our study, our gratitude, our affirmations, and our training to start my day. Those are the highlights of my day, because by getting up at 5 a.m. and having this meeting at 5:30, which is over by 6:30, I get more done by 8 a.m. than most people do all day long. That to me was life-changing. It helped me write 4 books, publish 4 books, I should say, because anybody can write a book, but publishing it takes an extra step and an extra level. 4 books published in just under 2 years. Several of the coaches here are going to speak next, and one of them is joining us today. She was moving. She wasn't prepared today to speak, but we're going to have another episode so that everyone can get on stage with us and everyone can join us as far as following this goal and helping everyone achieve the greatness that they really can have. I'm at the end of my time, and it's a little early, but I'm happy to close. Or if there are any questions in the audience right now, I can pause here. We have a few minutes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. That's a resounding. Next on stage is my brother Ahmed. He's next in the book. If I can get it here.
Thank you,
Again,
Brother
his
Albert.
social media contacts are all going to be provided at the end of our session today. Brother Ahmed, take it away.
Thank you, Brother Albert. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here sharing all of our experiences and what we have learned. It has been a tremendous honor and truly humbled by you, my dear Brother Albert, for providing us the opportunity where we can participate into enriching everyone else's lives. What does it mean to get unhacked? For me, it was a spiritual one. Everybody has a story. Everybody has some sort of a hacking mechanism where they feel stuck. And for me, it was always either religious or spiritual. I had an issue with science and spirituality. It's only when I managed to connect the both together is when I truly started to look at it from a new lens of scope and a different understanding. I realized that, as scripture tells us, that there is 3 different types of selves, or there are 3 main types of self. There is the ego self, there is a self with the inner struggle, and then there is a self that is serene. As we were growing up, we were very much in tune with our inner self. We were always more conscious about what was going on within ourselves. But as we grow, as our conscious mind gets developed over the first 7 years, our parents, our teachers, instead of making us remain and enhancing our higher faculties within us, they make us focus on the world that's outside of us. I'm so, so grateful that as I grew older, that I had the privilege and opportunity to learn how to go back and relearn what I forgot. See, everybody is the same. We're all equal, as your spiritual DNA is all perfect, and we all have equal opportunity to achieve anything we want in our life. But there are certain steps. There are laws. We may break man's law or bend them, but God's laws can never be broken. And there are many laws out there, but when you go to the basics, there are 7 universal laws. And these 7 are the basics of every religion, of every teaching in spirituality, which I will here cover all of the 7. So I just want to share my screen for a moment. So just a moment. So we have the laws, and these laws are universal since the dawn of time. And the thing is that some people ask me, how can I know if these laws are working? If you don't go through it, you're not going to know it, because you may learn it mentally, but the true understanding comes is through going through these laws and applying them into your life is where you will get to understand the dual wisdom behind it. So there are 7 of them. We have the law of mentalism, the law of correspondence, the law of vibration, the law of polarity, the law of rhythm, the law of cause and effect, and the law of gender. So let's start with the first one, which is the law of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Everything that you see outside of you is mental in nature. As Napoleon Hill, in one of his books, The Science of Personal Achievement, he said, thoughts have the ability to project themselves into their physical equivalent. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. Now, what do we mean by truth? How can I understand what is the truth? As I said earlier, if you don't go through it, you'll not come to realize the truth. See, there are the laws, and then there are the methods of application that once you apply them, the truth will be revealed to you. It will emerge to you. Since you are the only observer of your reality, you'll get to see it unfold. As Neville Goddard stated, but the state has to be belief. He said, when your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it. You fuse with that idea. This union results in the activation and projection of the plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances. And it's all in your consciousness. That new state of conscious awareness becomes your home from which you view the world. And if you're observant, you're going to see outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestation and appearances, which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy. And in short, all that is apparent to our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universal, infinite, living mind. Einstein stated, he said, everyone who is seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that a spirit is manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of man, and one in the face of which we, with our modest powers, must feel humble. As Napoleon Hill stated in his book, Think and Grow Rich, he said, We are a minute expression of the divine that's been individualized. See, Jesus had the power to heal. Jesus had the power to feed other people. But the thing is, Jesus also knew the truth. He practiced and lived these very laws. Otherwise, he would not have said, "What's within me is within you." Max Planck stated, he said, "There is no matter as such." He said, "All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." It's only when we tap into ourselves, when we truly get emotionally involved with the idea that we seek, when we unify ourselves with it and tap into the feeling that we already have it, is when we're operating from the field, the matrix, or which I like to call God. The law of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The key word here is planes of being, or which I like to call the state of being that you're in. Because everything is a reflection. If you look at the tree, if it's healthy, that signifies that the roots are healthy, as above, so below. Your position in life today, wherever you are, is an expression of your conscious awareness within you. If you want things to change on the outside, you must first change on the inside. The old Hermetic axiom ran in these words, as above, so below, as below, so above, and the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is a universal law. Your thoughts, feelings, and actions must be in sync if you want to remain in alignment to manifesting the good that you desire. As you change, so does your environment and your condition. The law of vibration. Everything moves, nothing rests, as our late mentor Bob Proctor stated. Everything vibrates. Bob Proctor always used to say, he said, "You're a massive molecule moving at a very high speed of vibration." It vibrates so fast that you can see it still, but it's not still. This principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Some people used to say, okay, how about a dead body? Well, it's still vibrating, otherwise it wouldn't turn to dust over the years. Something to think about. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet this Hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. So this goes back millennia, not just centuries. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from varying rates of vibration. Some people ask, how can I know if I'm in a high or low vibration? The key indicator here is your emotions. If you do a check on yourself, Where is my emotions at in the past hour? You can know exactly what you were thinking in the past hour based on how you feel. And your feeling dictates the vibration that you're in. Not to mention that you can only attract things to you that are vibrating in harmony with you. The law of polarity. Everything is dual. It's like the two sides of a coin. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites, and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature. You have day and night. You have hot and cold, for example, but the different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. It explains that in everything there are two poles. We got a North Pole, we got a South Pole, we got Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, or opposite aspects. And that opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing, with many varying degrees between them. To illustrate, heat and cold, although opposites, are really the same thing, which is just temperature. The difference is consisting merely of degree of the same thing. Look at your thermometer and see if you can discover where heat terminates and cold begins. You can't. The measurement is always in heat units. There is no such thing as absolute heat or absolute cold. Another example, you can't make the dark darker now, can you? It's just the absence of light. The two terms heat and cold simply indicate varying degrees of the same thing, and that same thing, which manifests as heat and cold, is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. Next principle is the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. If you look at nature, it does have a principle of rhythm. And if you look at a human being, we refer to a human being's rhythm as something we call habit. It's the repetition of patterns throughout a person's life. This principle embodies the truth that in everything there is a manifested, a measured motion. To and for, a flow and inflow, a swing backward and forward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide like ebb and flow, a high tide and low tide, between the two poles which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago, is always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter, even in seasons. But here's the thing with the law of polarity and the law of rhythm. Yes, you get an opportunity to see both ends, and you get to choose. You have a freedom of choice. Which one are you going to stay on? Are you going to stay on the positive side of the pendulum or the negative? And get this part, you will always be in the center of your very own universe. No matter how many times you go to bed, you wake up, since you are the observer, encapsulated temporarily in this body as a spiritual being, you will always be in the center of your universe. I truly want you to understand this truth. The law of cause and effect, as Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, he said, the law of cause and effect is the law of laws. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect, an effect from every cause. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance. that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law. Everything moves from spirit to form. So you have the spirit, then you got the intellect, you got your emotions, you go through your actions, and therefore you get the results that you have in your life. The cause is in the mind. The effect is in your outcome of your behavior and the outcome of your environment. Remember, as if we go back to the law of rhythm, it matches identically with Napoleon Hill's The Law of Cosmic Habit Force. Your rhythm dictates your habit. Therefore, the conditioning that's in your subconscious, once you plan, the cause is something mental. You use your conscious mind to induce the cause. When you get emotionally involved with it, you alter the conditioning within your subconscious mind, and therefore it produces an effect. So the cause is mental in nature. The effect shows up in your personality, in your very own state of being, and therefore the universe that's outside of you, since it's a reflection of what's within you, must match the changed person that you have become. And the seventh law is the law of gender. Gender is in everything. We always have a male and a female, and that is the principle of creation. Now, if we go back to the law of cause and effect, I want you to understand that the conscious mind is masculine. The subconscious mind is feminine. You have the analytical and you have the emotional, which goes along with the law of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything. The masculine and feminine principles ever at work. It has to do with the gestation period as decreed by the law of gender. Let's say a great example is you have a couples who are getting married, and once the female is in the process of conceiving a baby, when the conception takes place, you don't get to see the fruit of this conception until 9 months later. There are things that we can relate to when it comes to our outside world. Now understand this, as Bob always said. He said a spiritual seed is made up of the same stuff as a physical seed. We just can't really identify what would be the gestation period before we see its manifested result. But that doesn't mean that this law is not at work. The law is always at work. And just as I've mentioned earlier about you being in the center of your universe, there is one of my favorite statements that Genevieve Behrend has mentioned in her book, In Your Invisible Power, which she had learned from Judge Thomas Troward. I want you to repeat this to yourself whenever you watch the replay. The statement goes that my mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in the past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner with me. Consequently, in my own special world, of which I am the center, it will move forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that have gone before. Imam Ali, which was Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law, has a very famous quote. He said, "You're not a tiny speck, but yet you have this entire universe unfolded within you." I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share what I had to say today, and truly looking forward to connect with you. So our next Brother John would be leading the call for now. Brother John.
Thank you, Ahmed.
You're most welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about passion purpose, and profession. And for me, it became my passion, became my purpose, and then it became my profession. And the energy that Ahmed was talking about elevated. I found where I belong, and there's an excitement there. And it really does come back to energy. It does come back to faith and belief in yourself. Because Ahmed and Albert were right. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. And I can prove it to you right now. Energy is talking to you all the time. Think about somewhere in your past when you've done something that you knew you shouldn't have done. How did you feel afterwards? You feel guilty? Did you feel uncomfortable? That's energy talking to you. And how about when you did something right? Just because your neighbor needed help. The little old lady had a flat tire and you helped change the tire for her and you felt good about yourself. That higher level of energy, that's energy talking to you. You get to learn how to listen to your body because it is always talking to you. The trick is to learn how to tune into it. And that comes from asking certain questions. That's one of the ways, is asking certain questions. One of them is, if I could do anything that I want, what would I do? Sit with that question for a minute after today's presentation's over. Sit with that question. If I could do anything I wanted to, what would I do? And feel the feeling as if it was already done. Albert was talking about the stick figure. Okay, what goes into the conscious mind eventually goes into the subconscious mind. There is repetition involved in here because the brain learns in three different ways. Stories. We are all master storytellers. And we've told ourselves some pretty empowering stories and some pretty disempowering stories. And we chose to believe them. The brain learns in pictures. You see something that you want and it gets in your head. I want that, but I don't know if I can have it, because you're creating a story and talking yourself out of it. That terror barrier that Albert was talking about. It's because you're not feeling the belief that you actually can have it. You can't, you're seeing yourself as having it, but you don't really feel it. You don't really believe it. Passion, purpose, profession. The three P's also stand for past, present, and procrastination, because something happened in your past that you created a story around. You have dragged it with you into your present and you're procrastinating about it. You can't get past this. Oh, I've never been able to do that before. I can't do it now. So you don't try. You're not flowing with the energy, which is everywhere. It truly is. The other way the brain learns is through repetition. And if you keep telling yourself you can't over and over again, you start to believe it. But when you start telling yourself, you know what, I can, you do that over and over again. And your brain starts to believe it. Your subconscious mind starts to believe it. And it starts looking for ways to prove that statement right. The subconscious mind doesn't care. It's just going to blindly do what you tell it to do. But you have to do the work. And the work starts with, what do I want? Who do I want to be? What limiting beliefs do I have around whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you're feeling? When you say things to yourself like, you know what, I don't want this anymore. Now you're left with a series of questions. There's four ways to think about this. The first one is, I have to. And when you say I have to, you're coming from a place of lack. Then you go to, I get to. And I get to trying to convince yourself, but you're not really sure. Yeah, I get to do that, but I don't know. From there, you move into, I want to. Now you got a little momentum and you're starting to incorporate some of the principles that Albert and Ahmed were talking about. Napoleon Hill said, anything the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. The most important word in that sentence is the word and. Anything the mind can conceive and believe, you must have both. So when you get to, I want this, you're starting to believe maybe it's possible. But when you say, I choose to, that's where the action takes place. That's when things change, when you choose, because everything is a choice. We're talking about vibrations and frequency earlier. Okay. Think about a hot air balloon. What does a hot air balloon want to do? It wants to rise, but there's ropes holding it down. And until somebody cuts those ropes, it's not going anywhere. That spiritual part of you that is truly inside you wants to rise as well, but there's ropes holding it down. I can't. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. I hate you. I'll never forgive you. You are the only one that can cut those ropes. And you got to learn how. And that's one of the things that we teach in the Napoleon Institute is how to cut those ropes. I call it higher order thinking. This is me. I call it higher order thinking because that's what this did for me. It taught me how to think differently, how to see something else was possible. What else is there? And it caused me to do some work, some inner work on me. And one of the questions that I asked myself is, what do I deserve? And when I asked myself what I deserve, I had to look myself in the mirror. And that is the hardest thing that you will ever do is look yourself in the mirror and face you. You're going to face your fears. You're going to face the things that you have bottled up and pushed aside because you didn't want to deal with them. That is where your growth is. And it's scary and it's hard. And it is the most beautiful thing in the world when you break through because you are finally free of those chains. You have cut your own ropes holding you down. And you truly do rise. Spiritually, you rise. As a human being, you rise. You're better. You feel lighter. A weight has been removed. It is so worth doing the work. It is the greatest decision I ever made. What do you deserve? What do I deserve? I personally believe that God created us in his image. And why would God create us in his own image? And why would God create something in his own image that isn't worthy? We were taught to believe we're not. It's just conditioning. That's all it is. And we can get past that because we can change what we think. We can choose to decide what we are going to focus on. But before that happens, there's something else. And I want to share my screen for a second. I want to share that image right here. Okay. This is called an emotional trigger palette. We are triggered all the time through repetition, through our environment, as Albert was talking about, through the news, it's propaganda, so many things, everything is coming into our bodies. And some of them we react beautifully to, or actually we respond beautifully to. Those higher vibration feelings, love, acceptance, happiness, joy. And there's the lower vibrations that we react to, anger, fear, resentment. We feel them, but do you know why you feel them? So I created this, and it looks like a pizza. And I'm going to explain this. There are over 500,000 words in the English language. Around 3,000 of them are devoted to emotions, what we feel. On average, people only use 10 to 12, maybe 15. So we're already limiting ourselves. But take the emotions that you feel most often during the day and put them on the outside ring of this pizza, this emotional trigger palette. The slices represent what makes you feel those emotions. You love your children. That's one feeling of love. That's one shade of love. That's why there are colors in different shades. You love your children. That's one shade of love. You love your spouse. You love your parents. But notice this blank spot here. Do you love you? Do you love you? Everybody likes themselves. Yeah, I'm a good person. But do you really love you? That's a good question to spend some time thinking about. Okay. What makes you feel fear? Now, these are just examples. You can put in here whatever you want. But once you put these slices in, once you put in thrilling, gratification, triumph, under happiness, whatever makes you feel happy, whatever makes you feel fear, whatever makes you feel anger, now you know what your triggers are. And remember, have to, get to, want to, choose to. You can choose if you want to let that trigger continue to lead you and guide you, and in some cases, control you. When you let those triggers go, or at least if you're aware of them and you can make a decision, and right now, do I want to feel angry? Do I want to feel pissed off? The person cuts you off on the highway. Most people's first reaction is to flip them off. But is that really who you want to be? Think about a different perspective. Maybe he's got an emergency. Maybe his child's being born right now. Maybe a family member's in the hospital. Maybe there's something going on. So you get where you're going one car length later. Is it worth getting upset and aggravated? Your blood pressure, your body releases chemicals like cortisol, which makes you angry and feel bad. Or can you say, you know what? I'm getting where I'm going one car length later. This outside external thing does not have to affect who I am. That's a choice. And you get to decide who you want to be. What are you passionate about? Are you passionate about being a beautiful person? We're all beautiful people. But sometimes the outside gets in the way. So this is really about living from the inside out, not the outside in. And once you know what your triggers are, you can choose as to whether or not you want to react or respond in a different way. And you stay healthy. When you are not stressed out about things, you rise. You change the vibration that you're on. It is so important to know what your triggers are. I cannot emphasize this enough. Remember, it's about both. All right. Anything the mind can conceive and believe. Do you believe you can let this go? It doesn't have to trigger you. What are you passionate about? I'm passionate about being peaceful, being that next best version of me. That's what I'm passionate about. Yeah, there are things that I want, but it's not about the things. It's about who I get to become, who I choose to become in order to have those things. Who did I get to become in the process? Learn what your triggers are, change them. It's all choice. It's all a decision. You can procrastinate over it. You can stay where you are and keep hitting that terror barrier, or you can bust through it and see what else is there for you. And there is so much more there for you when you learn to release and you learn to let go. Look yourself in the mirror. What do you deserve? That's your homework assignment. Look yourself in the mirror for 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. And see what comes up. See what feelings come up. That's where you get to spend some time working on you. And it's worth it, because you are worth it. Every one of us has that deep, dark place inside of us where we hide our shame, our fear, our guilt, our resentment, and all of this stuff that hurts. On the other side of that is the you that God created in his image that is worthy. Do the inner work. Break through that stuff. Break through that fear barrier, that terror barrier. What's on the other side is more magnificent than you could possibly imagine. Thank you so much, everybody. Phil?
We here. Wow, this has been such a great morning, and everything is going by so fast. And who are you being right now? How are we being? Maybe we just take a breath, put our hands up, and just shift that energy. And really, as we're getting into all this phenomenal information, I'm so grateful to be able to be here. I get to play with my friends like Brother Ahmed and Brother Albert and Brother John, and sharing in these ideas and having great conversations. I love dynamic conversations, don't you? And powerful things here. But what I wanted to talk about is a little bit of how we start to bring this all together in action. The I've So I'm Phil Conway, and also a certified coach here with the Napoleon Hill Institute. I've been in a family business for 38 years, and I really love as a funeral service professional how I was working with people, helping them through their pain towards the healing, and also got involved with some great organizations within leadership as well with as a club president with CEO Space, where we helped accelerate business growth. And those are two areas that I really focus on, helping people to be better. And it really comes down to, what is DMP? Definite major purpose is the key to us being able to have that life that we dream of. So many people are drifting, as Napoleon Hill talks about, not outwitting the devil. There's this hypnotic rhythm, and maybe you didn't hear that term hypnotic rhythm before. You probably heard of the rat race or the hamster in the wheel. Every day, maybe it's Groundhog Day, every day the same old. And what would it be like if we could just shift, like we're shifting our energy now? What is this if we can take a shift for yourself? Do you think about that? The idea is that having clarity is power. Knowledge is only potential, but clarity is power. And we must be clear on who we are and who we are being. We're human beings. It's a whole essence of who we're being and how we're showing up at every moment of the day. And it's something that we don't see, yet it is something that's very powerful. And the idea of everything in life, the goals, the directions that we want to go to, it comes down from a burning desire. That burning desire, that emotion of how we're being, and it's sparked by an idea. Do you ever have ideas? Dr. Joe Vitale, who's now president of the Napoleon Hill Institute, he talked about the idea that ideas use us. That idea is our divine assignment. This is something that's unique to us, that we are called to do. And because we've got the idea, we have everything inside of us. We've got all the tools, everything necessary, because we have infinite levels of potential inside of us. And that's what I love doing this work, is because helping people to integrate and see themselves in that position where they really want to be, extract all that potential that's inside to out, but it has to come from action. What actions do you take so that way you're living in your ideas, in your desire, with your purpose? It's not just about that goal. It's about, why is that goal important? What does that do for you? And it's not even about the goal. It's about the growth of who we become. The idea where, as we're being, we have this idea, there's a creation theory where we make a theory. And from this theory, there's two questions we ask. Are you able? You might not know how to do it, but you are able because you came up with the idea. The next big question is, are you willing? Are you willing to do whatever it takes, or are you only interested in do what's convenient? In order for us to have a way to process that, create the goal, have the direction to go, is that we need self-confidence. We have self-confidence in the idea that hasn't been done yet. And that helps to us. It comes from our self-image. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as worthy? Do you see yourself in a clear picture of where you want to be going? Because if we don't know where we're going to go, how do we know that we got there? Napoleon Hill talks about being rudderless on a ship in the middle of the ocean. It'll go tossed and turned in waves. What are the waves that come in your world, in your life, that throw you off? Or do you stay persistent, stay with that goal, and keep that self-confidence? We have a lovely self-confidence formula that Napoleon Hill has in Think and Grow Rich. And Albert had mentioned earlier the self-discipline camp. It's where we start to disrupt our current programming. And from that programming that we had, we get the ability to do what we want. We get to make that shift. So what is it that you're doing to make that shift? And it really comes down to, I love this image of the mind. Albert started to talk about that stick person and the idea where we have these thoughts come to us, and in these thoughts, they're going to be negative or they'll be positive. We have the ability to be thinking and taking those ideas, and we plant the seeds of something negative, or do we plant the seeds of something positive? How do we move forward with persistence and confidence in the idea? And as a recovering drifter, I can tell you that years I was always waiting for, other situations to be different. Would we have another opportunity? Would my father in a family business, would he going to retire? He was always open-minded, and I wanted to take things in a different direction, and we had other people involved with us, and I was waiting like for 18 years, every 6 to 10 months, thinking things would shift. And I was just sitting there as a drifter. Everything else is happening around me. That's no way to live. I can tell you that. The idea is, for me, is I'm naturally persistent. And I love using 3 letters like John had used. So PPA. The idea is, if we have this definite major purpose, we have this idea we want to go, we set the goal, and we have to have our purpose, a plan, and action. If we don't have any one of those, we will not get to the destination we want to go. So purpose, plan, and action is that, why is you here? Why is an idea resonate with you? John talked about the triggers. Ahmed talked about our spiritual essence in life. And Albert talked about our programming that goes into our mind all the time. The idea that if we are aware of ourselves, I tried to write it out on my own here, and I am not an artist, so that's where I like to go to the other image I showed you. But if I'm not aware of where I can go, this is ignorant right here. Ignorance, highly intelligent people are ignorant. People with, as my mentor Bob Proctor would say, they have letters coming off their business card, yet they don't achieve anything because they're drifting and they're ignorant about the power of themselves. Go back to the question, who are you being? Are you aware? The level of awareness of what I am being in every moment of the day, this is the magic of life. This is where things start to move forward, because as I have the natural habit of persistence, which Napoleon Hill talks about, persistence takes a definite major purpose and a definite goal. We have to have an objective where we're going. We have to have a plan. And we have to have a mind closed tight to all negative influences. We cannot allow any person, condition, circumstance to get in our way. We can only be as Ahmed had talked about, the cause and effect. We can be our own cause, which we always are being. The question is, are we being the cause that we want to be, that is naturally resonating with us? Or are we allowing somebody else's cause to influence us and not be who we are? What a tragedy. How would that be to go through life and to look back and say, was I being all I could be? So what we have to do is that we have to create the new habits. Something like our self-discipline camp, our self-confidence camp, is one thing where we start to install new habits. It's virtually impossible to create a bad habit. A bad habit will be there, but if we work out the muscle of creating a new habit, the bad habits will atrophy. They'll start to wear away, and the new habits will soon replace that which was serving before. So it's time for you to stop wishing for things to be different. We have to stop wishing for money, wish for love, wish for luck, wishing for opportunity. Oh, would it be a different economy? No. I say stop that, and we move forward. We start to go towards giving. Although, as Thomas Troward writes about, we cannot give what we haven't got. So we have to give to ourselves love. We have to give ourselves forgiveness. We have to give ourselves nurturing, nutrition, food, exercise. It's, if you fly in a plane, they say put the oxygen mask over your face first, and then you can help someone else. We have to do that with ourselves. We must tap into who we're being. Pay attention to those desires. If we have those triggers, or we have those other spiritual areas that are don't seem right to us, pay attention to that and look behind that and ask yourself the question, is this true? Is this really true? Is this really true? And then keep on moving forward, because that's what it's all about. We only have this moment. Bob Proctor would say that I don't wear a watch because it's always this moment. And when you look at it, it's always this moment. And if you're living in the past, an hour ago, last week, last month, that's totally irrelevant to where you can be next week. But if you're thinking of, oh, I can't wait till May 15th, oh, May 31st, this will be different. Oh, no, it won't work that way. We have to pause, figure who we are. And that's something that we have the tools to help people to do that in a deeper way. And when we start giving, we focus on the cause of just service to humanity, which is what I love. That's where things start to make a difference. And we have to get to the why of our goal. What's going to be different, and why is that important to us? Are we just going through the motions? There are some people who are unconscious competence, and what they do is they show up day in, day out, and they might be achieving some great things. However, once they, for example, sell their company and they exit for hundreds of millions or $1 billion, they don't know what to do. They just retire, they stop living. What good does that do to stop at age 50 or 60 or 70 when we've got 125 years? Maybe we can live 130 years if we treat ourselves the way that we can, and we keep on tapping into the energy of great ideas. Because as we move forward, we see the horizon and the ocean just as far as it can go. But when we're out there, there's a new horizon. And then there's a new horizon. Same thing if you take up the mountain. You go skiing. I love to go skiing. You take the chairlift and there's a ridge. You'd think the ridge is the top, but you get to the ridge, you say, oh, there's another steep slope. And we get to the top of that, and then you see the peak. And then you know what? There's another taller peak, but it's over here. And we get to do this. We get to do this in life. Are you taking that supreme chairlift? Are you taking that cruise? Are you moving in the direction where you really want to be going? That's what I ask for you today. The idea too is that when we have the why, how do we get emotionally involved with that why, that goal? And it's not about the goal, it's about who we are being and what we have to grow, because we have the tools, we have to become that person, and we have to assume it as already completed. And this is why it takes a daily study. Like we have to shower and groom every day. We have to exercise often. I don't exercise daily. I know in my mind, but there's a gap between what I know and I'm doing there. And I'm filling in that gap. Yet the idea is that we have these powerful emotions that move us forward. We get into those principles with Think and Grow Rich. There's the emotion of love, of sex, transmutation of that energy. There's wealth. There's having a preservation, our legacy. How do you want to be remembered? We want to have freedom. One of my auto suggestions that I write every day is, I am so happy and free. What are the freedoms that you enjoy? And are you stepping into that? There's these unseen forces that will always be with us. It's faith and fear. Both are unseen, both very powerful. Unfortunately, more than 98% of people are letting fear be the driving force in the emotion that people tap into. There's 6 ghosts of fear that Napoleon Hill talks about. That's something that we do in our daily study. If that appeals to you, you might want to get involved in doing that. And the 2 top fears are poverty and criticism. Do you ever wonder that, what are people going to think of me? What will somebody else think of my idea? Or if we allow someone else's thinking that it isn't going to work, that critical thinking, we can use critic to think constructively. Yet if we allow critic to be used in a way that holds us back, we gotta learn how to smash that. And we got the tools to do that with you. Those unseen forces of faith and fear, they both demand that we believe in something we cannot see. So it's a matter of belief. What do you believe? And it's your choice. You have a choice. How good is that? How do we get a choice? So thought is only thing that we humans can take complete control of. Thought leads to our emotion, leads to our habits, or the actions that we take. And this is our cause. That's the only way we can control in life is our cause, what we put out in service. What comes back to us is the effects that we see. That's where we look at our bank account. We look at our friends, our relationships, the people we get to play with. This, all of you who are here, there's something that called you here. Identify, why is it that attracted me to come here? Why am I here? What is I going to take? Am I taking one item? Am I taking two items? And I'm actually going to put it in use. I'm going to take action on that. That's the challenge to you, is to take action on what moves you. What is something that inspires you today? Is it to reach out and talk to somebody who that's perhaps they're going through a struggle, and together you invite them together, we have a dynamic conversation, we see what we can do so we can serve, so we can work together, because it's all about collaboration. I love the idea of collaboration and stopping the idea of competition in business and in life, because each of us is unique. We don't have to compare ourselves to other people. When we compare, the danger is our ego can either make us look better or look worse. We'll see others as better than they are, and we'll see us not as good as we can be, especially if we haven't got that self-image or the self-confidence in ourselves and the ideas that use us. Gratitude, being grateful for the things that do use us and the people who come into our world. The power of all of this really comes into our emotionally involved with the goal where we want to be, that identifies with our definite major purpose, and the subconscious mind. That's the power center. That's where it all happens. Remember, our thoughts are powerful seeds. They can grow flowers, provide nutritional food, or they can grow weeds and they can kill us. Our health is everything. Our relationships are everything. How we serve humanity, that's what I love. I keep on getting goosebumps when I think of the time where we had a founders celebration in New York City. We were in Andrew Carnegie's home where Napoleon Hill was interviewed. We went into the library, and I can tell you, it was just the energy of seeing more than 20 auto suggestions. One of our fellow coaches here, Hande, actually has a picture of that, and I was grateful for her to share that some time ago too, where there's so many things that are going on. Service to humanity is the best work of life. And one of the things that I saw that hit me most was the highest form of worship is service to mankind. And I love being service. I love finding collaborations, how we can all work together, because it's a big mission we have at Napoleon Hill Institute. We're taking steps. We're going our first 8 million, then we're going up to 9 billion people. It's going to take a variety of people who are being unique, because to me, I see through all the diversity, I see unity. Do you see unity in the differences, or do you set up a law of polarity where there's, oh, me or you? I want to invite you to find the unity in the differences. And this is poem I love that helps me to come to a closing in a minute. It's called If I Knew You and You Know Me. If I knew you and you knew me, if both of us could clearly see, and with an inner sight divine, the meaning of your heart and mine, I'm sure that we would differ less and clasp our hands in friendliness. Our thoughts would pleasantly agree if I knew you and you knew me. If I knew you and you knew me, as each one knows his own self, we could look each other in the face and see therein a truer grace. Life has so many hidden woes, so many thorns for every rose. The why of things our hearts would see if I knew you and you knew me. I would love to invite you to take a look at yourself. Are you tapping into all you can be? Or are you just showing up and going through the motions? Are you on a hamster wheel? And is that really suiting you? Because when you find yourself, you'll never be lost again. And I want to ask you, are you ready to lose yourself in service to humanity? My name is Phil. I'm filling in the blank with all of this great information. Grateful to be here with you. Let's have dynamic conversations together and keep this conversation going.
Thank you, Brother Phil. Trying to stop screen share. Are there any questions for the authors today? You have us all here.
Any takeaways you'd like to share?
I'll just say really great information. I took 4 pages of notes. So I appreciate Phil inviting me, and it's really great to hear different perspectives. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing your energy, Kelly.
Thank you to everyone that participated today. This was our first episode. I look forward to having another one with more of our authors. Perhaps everyone here can reattend our current authors, and we look on to expand this to help as many people as we can serve. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Until next time.